This conference will now be recorded.
Welcome to the Connecticut River Valley Chamber Industry Expert Series. My name is Mary Ellen Dombrowski. I'm president of the Chamber, and I'm very proud to introduce you today to GreatBlue Research. Our presenter today is Mike Vigent. He's CEO of GreatBlue Research, and it's a Glastonbury-based market research firm dedicated to ensuring client success. Mike's worked in the market research business for over 20 years and worked with thousands of clients across the country and even internationally. He's a very active member of our community. Recently, he organized Jammin' for Good, a virtual music festival featured local residents, musicians, and just giving them a community a respite during these very tough times. So he's always giving back. Throughout his time in the market research industry, Mike has learned a thing or two. So I'm excited to hear what he has to say. I'm sure you are too. And thanks for helping us out with all this information today, Mike.
Excellent. Thanks so much, Mary Ellen. And good afternoon to everyone. It's a bright sunny day here in Connecticut. You never know because I have the shades drawn, so my face doesn't get too lit up like a candle, but really excited to share with everybody today and kind of what we're talking about. And today is really, what is market research really, and why do we need it? And it's interesting to see some folks on the line here that are actually past clients of ours and that sort of thing. So excited to have some folks on the call today. Excited to share with you kind of a variety of things. Number one, we wanted to talk about kind of a little bit of 101, what market research is, how you can use it, if you want to do it internally in a DIY kind of scenario. Most importantly, as all of our businesses and our families are going through these challenging times related to COVID-19, we also wanted to provide some data as to what's happening right now in the marketplace, how it's impacting different businesses, what to be on the lookout for, because despite the challenges that many businesses are facing, there's also lots of opportunity out there today. So we want to try to share some of that and give you some good takeaways as well as some education and learning. So let's jump right into it. GreatBlue Research, we've been around since 1979. The firm was originally founded in Austin, Texas. And since that time, we've really been working with our clients. And most of the clients that fall into our categories are, we work a lot with municipalities, towns, and cities, and working through what they need to bring to their residents and their businesses. We work a lot with healthcare, whether it is the plan, whether it's the provider, whether it's the patient, the member. And our biggest industry that we serve is the utilities industry. And that is everything from new products and new services to measuring customer satisfaction, employee engagement, employee satisfaction. We're going to talk a little bit about that today. But at the end of the day, regardless of who we're working for, and we've worked in consumer product goods, we've worked with Coca-Cola and Ford, Shark vacuums. There's not a time that I see a Shark vacuum commercial that I don't think about one of the products that we've touched for them. So the work that we do is all customized. Clients come to us and say, here is my need, here's what I need to learn, and we develop a customized approach to go understand that for them. But at the end of the day, if we don't help them understand what the next step is, what to do, how to use that information, how to drive their business forward, we're not really doing our job. So it's about really creating actionable results on the back end and making sure that folks know what to do with the information that we're capturing. Many of the ways that we capture information is through in-depth interviews, telephone surveys. We have a full in-house call center right here in our Glastonbury headquarters. Like everyone these days, we're doing digital surveys by the hundreds of thousands annually. Focus groups, although many folks think that focus groups have died, they're still going very strong. There's still that desire for researchers to talk face-to-face, even if that's over a Zoom call or a GoToMeeting like we're doing today. The ability to talk face-to-face to folks and ask their opinions and understand what they feel about a product, a service, an ad, a messaging campaign, so forth. And then kind of the newest entry into the research world is what's known as journey mapping, where we take multiple audiences and we take them through multiple facets of an experience with an organization. Just to give you a utility as an example, it might be a contractor working through that utility to get new service set up for a new customer. It might be a residential customer wanting to engage in a rate service or a new rate class. It might be a commercial customer that wants to expand their business. So all of these things all kind of get combined, and we start to understand how the utility is working from multiple aspects, multiple journeys, because not all customer journeys are the same. So this is a very in-depth type of research. More and more folks are taking advantage of it. It's a lot of fun to do from a research standpoint because it really allows us to dig deep. So thinking about kind of our agenda for the day, we have it kind of broken out into really kind of 3 areas. Why market research? What are the different types of research and how can you benefit from them? The next steps is really where I share a number of different data trends and what's happening right now, not only in our state, but across the country. And then hopefully I've generated enough questions from you all where we can answer some on the back end. And as Emily mentioned, if you have a question, type it right into the chat feature and we'll start getting to those once we wrap up. So why market research? What is really this crazy science that everybody talks about? It's really when we go into a new client and they say, well, how does this work? We just say, what decisions do you need to make? What tools do you need to succeed in your marketplace? And where do you want to take your business? And when we know those 3 things, the market research really comes alive. We build that custom instrument to go ask those questions. And we're trained both professionally as well as intuitively to ask a lot of questions. We're very curious people by nature. And so the more questions we ask, the more we uncover about what you feel you're doing well as an organization, where your assumptions are about how you can improve your business, where there's opportunities for you. Again, if you listen to everybody speak in March, very few folks were saying that there was opportunity related to COVID. Most folks were just trying to deal with what was in front of them. Market research helps you understand how you can take whatever entry point you're in or whatever time in history that you're in and turn it into a positive, whether that is understanding customer input. And you're going to learn today, customers is not just the people you sell to and deliver to, it's your employees, it's your internal customers as well. So understanding what they think and how they feel, because they will give you the answers on how to guide your business forward. So again, as I mentioned, our philosophy is really simple. We want to provide you with actionable insights that drive strategy, increase engagement with customers, and improve company operations. Over the last 22 years that I've worked in this industry, I've had to learn how operations work. I've had to learn how finances work. I've had to learn how customer service and marketing and leadership works, because we have to be able to deliver action to all those different audiences. And that's why what we do is custom designed. Again, we're looking at those need to know, those mission critical pieces of information. We provide consultation and guidance throughout the entire research process. So we don't just give you this already made survey and say, here's what we're going to ask. We base it on your needs. We're a one-stop shop. We have all in-house capabilities. So all of our quality control is happening within our own team, through our own team, by our own team. Everything that we do is recorded. We're very transparent in what we do. We don't just give graphs and numbers. Really, most of the work that we do comes after we deliver that final report, in working with our customers and our clients to help them understand how to take the data and then what to do with it. And that's really where the data comes alive. And it's knowing what to ask on the front end so that when we get to the back end, we know how to slice and dice the data. And in reality, you mentioned it, Mary Ellen, we've learned a thing or two over the years. When you think about when I entered this business and in this industry in 1998, we were just coming into the new internet age. Since that time, we've dealt with 9/11. We've done research during 9/11. The housing crash, the market increases and decreases, and now COVID's the latest issue that we're going through. What has been true in all these different time changes is really understanding where expectations have changed, what folks need and want, what they're worried about, what they're concerned about, and then trying to have the organizations that we're doing research for help address those expectations, those needs, and those sorts of things. So again, all the recommendations we make are leading folks in a strategic direction, knowing what the data is telling them, and then working with them after the final report to make sure that they're putting that data to work. So you're starting to see these types of graphics all over the place. None of us have likely been in an airport over the last few months, but you're seeing these smiley face, frowny face somewhere in between. This is quick hit research. It's understanding whether it's a men's room or a women's room that you've gone into to use that restroom and walking out. Was it clean? Yes, no, or don't know, or in between. This is where you're starting to see data being captured every day. And I think, Mary Ellen, you mentioned or Gail, I think it was you mentioned earlier, you're seeing a new poll every week. And that's because in a time like now, you can't afford to be wrong. And so understanding what your customers are saying, what they need is really important. And expectations have changed dramatically over the 22 years that I've been in the industry, but we're seeing it really dramatically over the last 5 years. Expectations have changed and increased exponentially. And so when we think of the value of market research and we start to think about implementing initiatives and programs or services, there's kind of a playbook, if you will, that comes along with research. And I started to mention some of it already. It's defining what your customer is, not what you think they are, but getting their definition from them, anticipating what they may need, looking at secondary data throughout the industry. And I'm going to provide you some primary and secondary data today that will allow you to start to formulate some opinions on how you're treating your customers, things that you might be able to do for them. I kept it G-rated because I didn't know if there were going to be any kids on the line, but stuff happens. And COVID is a great example of stuff happening. And we need to adapt and communicate and let folks know what we're doing and how we're doing it. We need to talk with our customers, not at them. We need to ask their opinions, their interests, their willingness to support a new product or a service. Believe it or not, if you ask your customers what they want, they will tell you. And then it's up to you to define if it makes the most sense to deliver that service and set the expectations around it. But no matter what, whether you're doing it in a formal way, hiring a research firm like us, as long as you're asking questions to your customer base, your clients, your employees, and really listening to what they're saying, all the information's there for you. It will give you the ability to make changes based on that feedback. And look, we've all sat in boardrooms, we've all sat in meetings where in many cases, the person who talks the loudest gets his or her point across. This starts to level the playing field and allows you to get back to the true nature of what you're looking to do, how you do it, and bring data and what folks are looking for to the table and prioritize accordingly. When we're defining our objectives, I always ask folks, and I said it a little bit earlier, what decisions are you making? When I first started in the industry, and Bill Reese can confirm this, having worked with me for many, many years, the survey instruments we used to ask to natural gas and electric customers were north of 100 questions. They were 20-something minutes long. And there was a lot of nice to know information built into those survey instruments. Now, most of the surveys we're doing are somewhere in the 30 to 50 question range. And a lot of those get asked quickly, so it's not as long. Most surveys are somewhere in the neighborhood of 5 to 7 minutes now. That's about the attention span. So while we have that attention span, we need to get at what's most important, whether that's in a digital survey or by phone or in face-to-face. We need to get at really quickly what's important to folks, what they know about your product, your service, what they perceive about your product or service. I'm going to show you a great graphic of this later on, but 9 out of 10 times people are not dissatisfied with a service. They typically have an expectation that is being unmet in their minds, when in reality, the organization that they're looking to have meet that needs has a solution, but they're not aware of it. So more often than not, lack of awareness leads to negative perception as opposed to folks doing things wrong. So at the end of the day, if there's one thing you can take away from this presentation is you need to communicate to your customers over and over and over again. When you're getting sick of talking about it inside of your office, they may just be hearing it for the first time. And when we're communicating with them, we need to understand what's driving their satisfaction. What was it specifically that made them happy with your organization? What specifically is a barrier to them purchasing more from you? What are their fears? We see fears all the time when companies are expanding. They have this great customer base and this very excited, satisfied customer base. And more often than not, the fear of that customer base is as you expand your service, you're not going to give me the same level of service that I'm used to. So that can be a message in a communication. We're growing, but we're still going to stay true to how we service you and make sure that our service levels do not dip. Determining a process for who takes responsibility. More often than not, our research results in operational changes, or that folks don't have the ownership to answer questions that they can, or they have to pass you over to 2 or 3 people to get the right information. Those multiple contacts result in lower customer satisfaction. So making sure that folks know who's responsible for their role, and what they can do, and making sure that timing, which is mission critical, is being handled in the most efficient way. So again, we want to communicate. As we talked earlier about identifying and getting to know that customer base, you need to understand where they want their communication, what kind of voice they want you to speak to them with. Is it a social media, more of a funny voice, or do you need to be more serious? Natural gas, in my opinion, is one of the most challenging marketing areas in the country right now. They have this tremendous track record of being safe, but yet they have to communicate to residents and businesses and customers and non-customers that if you smell natural gas, it could be devastating if you do something wrong. So here is a very safe product that has to then go market how dangerous it can be if done in the wrong way. That's not something that you say funny. So you start to understand that based on what the data is telling you, how you communicate is really important. So understanding and asking your customers how they want to be communicated in a way that makes sense for them is really, really important. So now I'm going to take you through a couple of different research types. I won't spend a lot of time on these because we will go ahead and send this presentation along, but I will be available afterwards to answer questions that folks have. So that being said, here are, if somebody said, Michael, hand me a menu of your different research types, this is probably most of what would show up. And there's a lot that falls into these types of studies. So telephone and digital, we really refer to those as quantitative. Think quantity. We want to get lots of information so that we can break down that data by men versus women, age groups versus income levels, those sorts of things. Focus groups is more qualitative. We're looking at more quality. We're talking to fewer folks, usually 8 to 12 people in a room or on a call. In-depth interviews are more one-on-one. As you might imagine, we're not doing quantitative studies with CEOs across the country. We're doing one-on-ones or small focus groups because these are the folks that are harder to get a hold of. Customer satisfaction studies, as I mentioned earlier, are not just the customers that you're delivering service to. They are also your internal customers, your employees. Pre and post advertising testing. I already gave you a little hint to this with the communication that we do on the pipeline safety and natural gas safety message testing. We put out messages, or the companies put out messages. We do some pre-testing. We go out and see how many folks have recalled, because that's a regulatory thing in nature where the regulators are coming and saying, hey, what is the awareness level? How much success did you have letting folks know what to do, how to stay safe in the event they smelled natural gas? Market assessments, this is where folks are coming out with new or expanded products or services. They want to know who will buy, at what price point, how they're going to make decisions, those sorts of things. Concept testing. I'll give you an example of a concept that never made it to the market shelf. It was Coke yogurt. Even though it was going to be the same strawberry, banana, and blueberry flavors that we get from all of our other yogurt companies, Coca-Cola's brand was so strong that folks could not get past the idea that a yogurt put out by this company was not going to taste like cola. So thus, Coke yogurt never made it to the market shelf. But it also led to their eventual water line, Dasani water line. They didn't put Coke on a water line for that same similar reason. So we've been a part of some really neat concepts over the years, many products that I'm proud to say that I've worked on, and one that my kids always think I'm stupid for saying, but we did a lot of work for Shark Vacuums, and there was probably 15 to 18 different vacuum units that we tested and worked on, some which were in the concept stage. And one day I took my kids, we were going to buy a new vacuum, and every vacuum that was in the Shark lineup was one that I had worked on. And my kids were like, yeah, whatever, Dad, let's move on. But that was pretty cool to see something that was a prototype make it to the shelf, and all the different features were based on our research. New product, new service studies, employee assessments. I mentioned a little bit early, journey mapping, user experience is a rapidly growing service. With the amount of money and time that we're spending on products, whether it's an app or a website, and how people engage with us, we want to make sure that they're getting the best experience when they come to our app, to our communication tool. So we're testing what people think. Statewide polling, if you have if you've been a part of the state of Connecticut, I think, Brian, we have you from New York. But if you come across the Sacred Heart University poll, we've covered everything from marijuana to tolls to the presidential election to Lamont's campaign. And a lot of our data does go national. We are the ones that conduct that poll for Sacred Heart University. So we are the polling firm behind them. And then what's come out of opportunity as of late is folks are saying, I need to understand my customers. I need to understand my employees. COVID has sent our business through the loop. What can we do to stay alive and survive? And so we have been doing some quick turn surveys on the COVID side as well. So these are just examples. I wanted to give you a few trends. Every time I educate, I also like to let folks know some things that they can take away. And just like the golden rule, which I think has never been more relevant as we hear everything with social injustice and COVID and all this sort of stuff, the golden rule of treating others as we'd want to be treated is really true today. But a few trends that show up in a lot of research is open and honest communication. If your rates need to go up, let folks know why. Let them know where the money's going. Being efficient. If I call into your organization because I have a question, get me to the person that can answer that question quickly. Be responsive. There is a direct correlation between satisfaction levels of those who receive a first contact resolution when they touch base with an organization they do business with versus a third contact. First contact resolution, satisfaction levels generally tend to be in the 80s and high 80s and low 90s. If you get into a second or third contact where it takes multiple people to solve your reason, satisfaction levels drop into the 60s. So just 2 or 3 transitions on a phone line can start to lower that customer satisfaction level. Listening to your employees. Hey, what are the challenges? What are the questions you all are getting on a regular basis? As those employees tell you those, build some scripts, build some language so that there's consistent messaging. It will also allow your employees to come across as more knowledgeable. And when we call, that ties in very quickly with that efficiency, first contact resolution, because folks know the answer. Succession planning, we see this in many of our long family-owned businesses or our historical regulatory type businesses. They were slow to get on the succession planning. Business continuity, even in a time like COVID, is making sure that other members of your organization are able to pick up the ball, regardless of what department that ball is in, and keep that ball moving down the field. Personalization, again, we can't do this for every specific customer, but we can build segments of customers and tailor our messaging and our different messages and those sorts of things. How we service people, we can tailor that to these different segments. And then last but not least, again, asking the questions, what is or should be offered, the interest levels, pricing, and various payment options. Having multiple payment options is a great example. For example, we worked with a golf course and they were going after the young executive membership group, and the membership price point was $1,300 for the year. And most folks, and the way that they were offering that payment was $650 at the beginning of the season, $650 midway through the season. Well, those young executives didn't have the $650 in January where they weren't going to be playing golf, but just by simply splitting out the dollar amount to be $113 a month or whatever it worked out to be, everybody signed on because now you're able to spread that load out. So it wasn't the price, it was just how it was being laid out over the course of the year. So customer assessments, again, going quickly, what is the end goal? Helping companies make data-validated strategic decisions, addressing those customer demands and improving upon company operations. So how do we get there? It's satisfaction with that product or service. It's desire or need for a new product or service. It's, again, getting into the awareness. I can't tell you how many times folks say, I really wish company X would offer this when they already do. That's a nice, easy recommendation to make and say, your customers are asking for something that you already deliver. They just don't know it exists. So that becomes an educational component. And then assessing various company characteristics, starting to break down your business. And that's something that we help you do. There's a difference between commercial customers and residential customers. There is a difference between B2B customers and B2C customers. And so understanding those various characteristics can go a long way to identifying how loyal your customers become, how satisfied they are, why they defect from you and go somewhere else. We want to understand those things and keep track of those things along the way. Employee assessments, if there is any dollars that you have right now, this is where you spend it. I joked this morning, and my team will kill me for putting up the picture of them, but if you look at that top picture, in March, that's how we would have defined our employees. That's how we would have defined sitting around the boardroom table. Now, that was taken in early April. That's how we're defining our employees now. So do you think their needs have changed from March until now? You betcha they have. So we need to adapt to them. We need to ask them about their job satisfaction. We need to ask them about their attitudes. One of the things that we did as an organization was brought on a coach / therapist about dealing with trauma, because we didn't want to assume that COVID wasn't going to be traumatic for any of us and how we deal with things. So understanding how we communicate, we have a very different level of communication today than we did in early March. We all do, because that's been the nature of work from home. So asking questions about this on a regular basis, finding those areas in need for improvement. Again, with the employee stuff, all responses are kept anonymous, and we have to go in and explain to employees how we achieve that, so that they can give us their fair assessment and their fair feedback, and then we can take it to management and say, I can't tell you who said this, but here are the trends. Here's what folks are looking for. And I'll give you some examples of that as we move on. For example, here is an actual live customer. We removed their names and their industry to protect them, but at the end of the day, here is 6 different characteristics that we measured in an employee study. It was understanding the overall goals of the company and where their work fits in. There are opportunities to learn and grow at the company. The company makes good use of my skills and abilities. I know what is expected of me on the job. I get enough feedback on my performance. I have the opportunity to grow into a management role if I desire. You can see the lowest rating is I have the opportunity to grow into management if I desire. The second lowest rating, there are opportunities to learn and grow at the company. That should be a huge wake-up call for this organization. But when you get into having clear expectations and understanding the overall goals of the company, they're doing a pretty good job there. So they've got some lower level, meaning specific level training and coaching that they need to do. They need to take a look at from an HR perspective, how they can keep folks in their business, and also coach them up and desire. Sometimes folks say, I don't have the opportunity to grow into a management role. And then you ask them, is that a problem? They say, no, because I don't want to be a manager. Right. And so it's also many times when you look at these results, that 39.5 can be a very negative number if you're tracking satisfaction. But if folks don't have a desire to go into management, then that means the company is aligned with those folks. So we help identify who those folks are, but understanding what the data means and how to look at it. I talked to you a little bit earlier about breaking down the different departments and the different characteristics. And so as you see, this came from that same company who we creatively titled Company 123. I know it's Tuesday afternoon, post-COVID. It's a nice day out, so our creativity is at a minimum. But we have a number of different factors that play into job attitudes and opinions. We have a number of different characteristics that fall into their specific department, how they rate and view leadership, how they rate the culture, which we refer to as environment, and then their overall job satisfaction. So when you average out all those different things, their employee satisfaction index number for 2019 was 64.4%. Now, since that time, we've worked with this organization to really identify those lower ranking areas and what we can do to see improvement in those areas. So they already have some game plans in place. Here's just another quick look at some department characteristics. And as you'll see, the effectiveness of department managers or immediate supervisors, communication within your department. Department management has a genuine interest and concern for employees. Department management listens to my ideas and concerns. So 66%, but you see a big difference between your 20 to 35 employees on the left side of that screen, 85.7% reported satisfaction versus those ages 50 to 65 reporting satisfaction with their managers. So management's doing a good job getting that younger audience coached up. They're not having as effective conversations that older demographic. So this starts to give you immediate feedback as to where you need to head and what you need to focus on. I'll touch quickly on product testing. Again, this can be anything from early stage concept testing. A product that we tested last year was fish related soups in a bag. Sounds disgusting. It is disgusting. And that's largely what the research told us. But they thought they had a great idea from a store shelf perspective. There's lots of good reasons. We tested that concept. It didn't test very well. Which product deserves development? What idea is the best for the target audience? Late stages after that product has been conceptually tested and it has been prototyped, and now it's ready for full development. Now we start looking at shelf, what it's going to look like on the shelf, what the packaging is going to look like, how we're going to market it, is the pricing right, those sorts of things. All of these things are captured during studies. Here's an example. Real quickly, we had 6 different concepts that we were testing. This was for fabric softeners. And we pulled out best scent as one of those characteristics, and you see all the different characteristics ranging from purchase intent all the way to appeal versus the current fabric softener that they're using. But when you really start to see how the magic comes alive, this visual, you don't have to know much about it, but I can explain it in 2 seconds. If you're going up the left side of the screen, it's the need and relevance of that product to the people that we're talking to. If you go along the bottom axis, it is the purchase intent. So as you get up to that top right quadrant, we now know very clearly Hispanics and lower income folks of all races are your most likely customers. So now we know lower income Hispanic marketplace, and there's all kinds of data out there that says how to effectively communicate to the Hispanic marketplace, how to effectively communicate to lower income. We start to see in that Gen Pop 18 to 34 category, they do have a purchase to intent. They don't have as much need. They're washing their clothes less, I guess. But sensitive skin had a high need and also fell in that purchase intent. So we now know what those purchase drivers are on that particular product. And these are very low cost types of research that are done. So it's not a huge amount. Then when you get done with the research, now as you put out all these different purchase drivers, also known as brand statements or positioning statements, you now know where the priorities lie. Eliminates bad odors from clothes, is safe for sensitive skin, leaves clothes feeling soft. Those are your top 3 messages that resonated with these audiences across. So that is going to point us in a direction of how we communicate with folks. Market assessment, again, we know what we want to launch. Does the market want what we have to offer? And this could be, again, current and or potential customers, identifying everything from concept to product to service to pricing to how you would roll it out. What is the risk associated with rolling out this product versus the opportunities? I mentioned earlier the impact of not being aware. And I have this slide up only to show you this green bar pointing straight up that has 75.9%. This was a Connecticut-based, regional bank that we were doing this study for, and 77% of the customer base or the prospective customer base had no idea that they existed. However, when we got into their clients, good awareness level, as you might expect, because they're clients. But when you get into overall perception, you see all of this green is perception that is unsure, or I don't have an opinion because I don't know enough about you. So we knew from this bank, once folks were aware of them, their satisfaction level and how they thought about them was pretty darn good. They just needed to get more folks aware of them. So that's a great example of awareness or lack thereof having a negative impact. Statewide polling, again, I wanted to end on, I think, I'm going to call it a high note from the opportunity, but the topic is somewhat negative, right? COVID-19. And what I wanted to do today was I wanted to end this on a note, whether you're a potential customer for us down the road or not, that's irrelevant. What I wanted to get folks thinking about from a data perspective is why polling is so important. There are so many answers out there right now for your business that you may not know about, but if you start to pay attention with a little different eye, you can start to see and understand some trends. when we get into the polling, and I mentioned the Sacred Heart University relationship that we have, that's a relationship that's over 10 years long. We're going on, gosh, almost 14 years now. There was a 1-year break, but we've had 2 different tenures with them where we do the polls for them. We've done them nationally, we've done them locally, but again, the latest iteration of this poll focuses on the Connecticut population. So a lot of numbers, a lot of bars here. At any point in time, if you ever want to take a look at the Sacred Heart polls that we've done, they're all located on the Sacred Heart University website. You can go there at any time. This is all free information. It's all public information. But I just want to point your attention to the March and the April bars. The March 2020 is that light gray, and the April 2020 are those black bars. And if you take a look on the left side of your screen, you say, how would you rate your overall quality of life in Connecticut? Well, in March, everybody was doing pretty good, right? As compared to the previous year. You start to look at April, 3 percentage point decline. Now COVID has hit. Now folks have lost some jobs. Now the quality of life has gone down a little bit, but it had about a month delay. So it really started hitting in April. You start to see the quality of life as being poor. Again, 6.7%. Folks hadn't gone there yet, but they were saying that it was moving. So the number is saying excellent was moving. Would you say your overall quality in life is in Connecticut is improving? No change but remains good. Declining? No change remains poor. You see the declining number went up in April. You see the no change but remains good went up a little bit. Again, at the time of this survey, there was still a lot of people that had their jobs or had just lost their jobs, but they were still getting that next paycheck. And so when you start to look at how this data trends, and as you go out further into May into June, those declining numbers are getting larger, right? Because now folks have been into this for a little while. So there is some opportunity. When we take a look at how, and everybody has an opinion on this, and everybody, when you ask folks how they feel the state responded, how you answer that question is really dependent upon what your role is, what your job is, what your business is like. But overall, we wanted to ask folks how well they felt the state was prepared. We saw 38% of respondents on the right side of the screen said that the state wasn't prepared. As we got into this middle chart where we said to folks, tell me how strongly you agree or disagree with Lamont's decision to close all non-essential businesses in the state. 83% agreed with how quickly he did that. And then we broke it down by state offices, theaters, bars, restaurants, schools. And a lot of folks, more so than I thought, more folks were in the you did it too late as opposed to too early. Now, if you were watching the news at any point during that week, everybody was blasting the governor for closing things down too quickly. But when you dove into the data, most folks said, you know what, it makes sense. If you were to ask the question now after seeing what the cases did, I think you'd see that number increase even further. Economic impact. I think we're all in agreement here at 92%, very or somewhat concerned. The level of concern of the financial impact of COVID-19 on just Connecticut's economy. And this is where I wanted to show you this. So people are scared economically. They're worried about their quality of life or their impact. When you take a look at the left side of the screen, 5 equals a high impact on my daily life. 4 equals, kind of that top 2 bars. You're seeing, over almost 70% of folks saying that COVID-19 has impacted their daily life. So if you are a product or service that deals with financial assistance, helping with resources and availability of essentials, healthcare support, medication, medical services, or you can just help folks out, this opportunity is ripe for you because these areas in need are no surprise probably to anybody on the call, but I need financial assistance. And that's where with banks, if folks are unaware and they need financial assistance, that's a great opportunity for these folks to show what they can do during these times. But that also might be products and services. You're seeing every single restaurant or many restaurants either offering delivery if they hadn't in the past. They were adapting to the service because as we mentioned earlier, stuff happens. So I wanted to really just kind of point out if you have people or you need people for your business, there's no better time than the present, right? So we want to take a look at the optimistic approach. And while there's plenty of negative and down things going on, there's also plenty of opportunity out there to be supporting our neighbors and our brothers and sisters. Work obviously was the most affected by COVID, ranging from layoffs to working from home, and then also the time, how long they anticipate working from home. You saw, a number of folks 2 to 3 to 4 weeks, 23% respectively. And I think in many ways, folks are now just starting, most of the words that I'm hearing is mid-July is when you'll see a lot of the office buildings and stuff going back. But that may change depending on what happens. But at the end of the day, there's some opportunity out there. So to kind of wrap this up, what do we do with the data? Again, I think I've given some examples throughout, and it stems from whatever decision you have to make. Is if you do the data in the right way, that can help you with your process service improvements, develop and implement effective marketing communications, increased engagement, build and strengthen relationships right now. I've been harping on my team since mid-March that right now, whether customers are buying for us at all, or right now, or they're delayed, we're going to be there for them. We're going to help them. We're going to guide them. We're going to continue to work on those relationships and be there even if they don't need us, because that's the opportunity right now. And so if there's one opportunity that everyone has, is the opportunity to create a closeness and a relationship, whether that's building a new one or strengthening that relationship with customers, so that when things do get better, they're going to remember you. So now what? We, again, in an effort to be there for our neighbors and our other businesses, we wanted to share kind of some COVID-inspired offerings. Feel free to kind of take these and use these with your own spin for your own businesses. But we also, as a thank you for joining this webinar today, we wanted to offer a free business audit discussion. And that's where jot down, touch base with me. We'll set up an appointment time. I'll have a 20 to 30 minute call with any of the viewers or listeners today and talk through challenges that you might have. And I can share my knowledge of an approach to take or something that you might do. Happy to talk through free of charge a consultative approach to a problem or an issue that you're looking to solve. Many folks come to us and say, hey, look, I don't want to hire a full service firm to do all our work. We want to do some of it ourselves, but can we hire you to help us build that program so we build it the right way and then we track it? And the answer is absolutely. We're happy to do that. So if it's a DIY research or data gathering playbook that you're looking for on just kind of a flat fee basis, and again, we work in very low budgets. We've done studies and some of these types of flat fee services for as little as $1,000, and we've done studies for $1 million. So we really do pride ourselves in being able to deal with budgets of all shapes and sizes, and we don't feel like we're too good for the small guy. We work with startups, we work with nonprofits. We want to help folks because we see the value of what this data looks like. A lot of what our customers have been asking us for through COVID is concise, easy to interpret survey instruments of 15 questions or less. We want a short survey, COVID related. How are we doing? What can we do better? How can we support you? That's a low cost study. All of these really, when we get into costing out or pricing out studies, it's really based on the number of people that you're surveying, the methodology that we're using, and how long the survey ends up lasting. But we offer full service feedback from your customers. That would be a full customized scoped project. And we also do the market study things as well. So again, all of these are kind of to be determined based on scope, but we would love to have a conversation with you. We're not trying to sell you anything today, but if you do have a need for research, we're here and we'd love to have a no obligation conversation with you. But we'll also sit on the phone with you for 20 or 30 minutes and help you solve a problem. So last but not least, before we kind of sum it up and head over to the question and answer period, I think what is true across the board right now is that expectations are at an all-time high. Your process needs to be tight. If you are not doing as much business as you normally do and you're a little slow, now is the time to take a look at your process, because that is way more important. People are more important than your process, but if your people are great and have a poor process, it will have an impact. But if you have to choose between one or the other, choose your people first. Advocacy is a must. There's no silver bullet here. Satisfying customers and clients, thinking that that just doing that is sufficient is no longer the case. You have to improve. You have to get them to a point where even if they could choose another partner, they would still choose you. And it's asking them, what will it take for you to be an advocate of our company where we keep you forever? Ask that question. They'll appreciate it. And part of what they'll tell you is what their experience looks like. So if we pay attention to our expectations and we focus our process on them, we will ultimately limit frustrations. But if we're not delivering on expectations and there are frustrations, we have to learn what those are and then communicate the responses and communicate what we're doing. What is good versus what is wanted or needed. Expectations, I have an expectation, but you're delivering something totally different, leads to frustrations, and where those frustrations exist, that's when things go wrong. But if we're reliable and we're transparent in our rates and our costs and where that money's going, we will build trust and people will go through those bad times with us. All communication is not created equal, so be thinking specifically about your customers and what they need and want from you. So that being said, I've tried to keep it to the time frame here, and we do have some time left over for questions. And Emily, I see that there's a couple in the chat, but I will open it up if at any point I'm going to unmute everyone. If you have any questions, by all means, feel free to send them my way.
Unmuted. They did not come through on my end, Michael, so I'm not sure if you could see that. But one can feel free to type or speak aloud if they'd like.
Okay, so I've unmuted every.
Mike, this is
Yes.
Mary Ellen speaking.
Yes.
Oh, you can, okay, somehow my screen froze. I don't know what happened here, a little technical difficulty on my end, but I just want to thank you for an incredible presentation. I had no idea of the breadth and the depth of the research that you're capable of doing. And there are just so, I think every single business would have a very good use of your service to some capacity, including the chamber.
Thank you, and I will let everyone know Mary Ellen was. I will let everyone know Mary Ellen was Audit. All right. Well, hearing no other questions, I want to one more section here, and Mary Ellen, thank you for mentioning it. And Mary Ellen, thank you for mentioning it.
I think there's just a little bit of feedback, Mike. If you want to mute everyone, Mike.
Yep. I was hearing that too. So on this, I just wanted to again say thank you to Mary Ellen in the chamber. Your point is well taken, and we've actually seen that as folks have gotten more comfortable with data and seeing the value of it. It's part of the reason our business has grown 10 out of the last 12 years. So we're really proud of that. And part of what we do when we do our work, and Bill knows this, and all of our customers know this. I was one of the first Make-A-Wish kids in the state of Connecticut. I was a stage 4 cancer survivor. I was one of the first Make-A-Wish kids. So philanthropy and giving back and paying it forward is very much a part of our company DNA. And as you see on the screen right now, Jammin' for Good was our latest example of that. We were just kind of generally feeling like COVID was bringing everybody down, and we knew our local businesses, our local musicians were really struggling. And so I guess it's 3 weeks ago, it was last Saturday was when we did the event. So 2 weeks prior to that, my wife and I came up with the idea. I started calling local bands. I had a number of folks that stepped up and sponsored locally, Hassett and George, Cox Business, Blueback Health. There was a number of folks that stepped up and sponsored this event, but we had a 5-hour live stream of music, and we did interviews. Kevin Nathan from Channel 30 came down and helped MC the scenario with me. So if you go to YouTube and you just type in Jammin' for Good 2020, it will bring up the actual YouTube video, and it's a 5-hour stream. So throw it on when you're having a picnic. There was 5 different local area musicians. It was amazing. And we've had over 8,500 views already in the last 2 weeks. So that was just our way of giving back. I've already mentioned to Mary Ellen, one of the things that we want to do is bring this event live next year and kind of combine efforts with the Chamber and deliver this as a way to partner up with the music series that's already happening. But just want to take a minute to share that with you. We all hope you go and take a look at it. But it was something that locally and recently we were really proud of. And that's kind of what we're about. So we hope that comes through loud and clear. As I mentioned, Mary Ellen and our team will send out this information to anyone who would like it. And again, we stand by ready to have a conversation with you. Understand too, if we get on a call and you have a need, we may not be the answer for that need, but we have a great network of service providers. So if your need is one that has nothing to do with research, I may have the opportunity within my network to recommend somebody that can help service your needs. So we welcome the conversation from any and all of you, and we thank you very much for your time today, and hope you learned a thing or two during our webinar. Thank you so much.
Thank you,